All right, so we can go here with Dave Perry of Fear of Water. How you doing, man?
Good, man. How are you?
Good. So you can't swim? Is that your deal?
Yeah, if I'm like at a party and don't want to get into something deep, that's usually how I answer the question. Is like swimming pools are rough and I just want to just want to avoid them and decided to make a whole band about it. Yeah. So, but
No,
the
seriously, for those that are watching and are not, you tell me all about yourself.
well the meaning of Fear Water, which I think is what you're getting at, is
I mean, like
so
you're a drummer. You're in this. You got other projects going on. Like people weren't familiar with who you are.
yeah. Yeah, originally from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, currently in Austin, Texas, been here for the last 10 years. Couldn't do winter anymore, so moved down here and there's a really great music scene and just general community down here as well. And yeah, just been a multi-instrumentalist since I was a kid and continue to just absorb as much different like if there's an instrument I can get my hands on, I'm going to teach it to myself and start incorporating it into my music. I've taken a similar approach to recording methodology, mastering software, understanding different hardware and software plugins. And yeah, my music career has taken me in a lot of different directions, including being a studio musician, writing music for professional wrestlers, entrance music, video games, commercials, movies, and have been the drummer for the band Raw since 2021. I was the drum tech for Nothing More in 22 and 23. And my primary focus now is Fear of Water, which is my one-man band project that I've been doing it for 20 years, but in the last couple of years, I've really been flooring it in terms of like I'm not putting out albums anymore. Basically, everything I do is a single, and each single has a featured performer. So I've already released four pretty high profile ones and have two done, ready to go. And I'm working on several more as we speak, but I've had the pleasure and privilege of working with the singers of Nonpoint, Gemini Syndrome, Butcher Babies, Raw, Clint Lowry from Seven Dust, the lead singer from El Nino. And yeah, like I said, lot more in the works that I'm really excited about. And that's what I'm gonna be doing for the foreseeable future.
Now you're clinically deaf. Is that right? I mean, that's what your bio says.
I was born clinically deaf. Yeah, that is a basically in the same way that vision is a spectrum, like someone who wears glasses isn't blind, but at a certain point of vision impairment, you can't drive a car. So that's essentially what the situation was with my ears, is that they were so damaged due to double overlapping ear infections at the point of birth that I did not have functioning hearing for multiple years. So I had to go through years of surgery and hardcore medications and speech therapy to get back to a point of having fully functional hearing and then being able to catch up kind of cognitively to all my peers. And, that has really set me on an interesting path in terms of, um, what hearing means to me. And music has played an enormous role in terms of reintegrating me into a life with functional ears. And I've just have felt in a position to I've been given this gift that could have been taken away from me, as many people live with deafness, and it was a really driving factor for me to dedicate my life to making as much music as humanly possible.
See, that's what I was going to ask you for sure. Like, when you have something that could have been taken away, and music is one of the main things you hear, like obviously your
Yeah.
mind's out.
Yeah, absolutely, man. It's scary to look back and think about. Obviously, plenty of deaf people and hearing impaired people live completely fulfilling lives, maybe even more fulfilling lives than mine. But just knowing what music has given me personally and professionally and community wise, um, and even just psychologically through my entire life, I cannot imagine a life without it. So yeah, man, I'm glad. I'm glad things shook out the way that they did.
Yeah, I was just checking if we had a Beethoven situation going on.
not not quite. I'll never put myself on that level. And unfortunately, I mean, maybe not unfortunately, maybe he would have made subpar music if he had fully functional hearing. But yeah, by the time I was 6, I had fully functional hearing and was finally speaking fluently and kind of just had a huge delay to starting my journey forward compared to everyone else around me.
Now, the new single that you're pushing is One Day, and that has Heidi Shepard from the Butcher Babies.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah. It's a very, powerful ballad. And it's really cool for Butcher Baby fans. you know, Heidi is typically known as this incredible, ferocious front woman of this really powerful metal band, and her energy and her screams and her growls, like that's her brand. But she really gets out of that comfort zone, outside of that, like what she's known for on this track, and really gives this amazing, vulnerable, intimate performance that makes this song everything I hoped it could be. So yeah, I'm really proud of it.
Now, how did you pick which one of the girls to be on the song?
You're saying in Butcher Babies or just in the entire like
No, in
of
the book, there's two of them, so I figured.
it really comes down to like I'll write music, and then there will be certain things that just speak to me in terms of like this. I just right off the bat felt that this song would lend itself well to having a female vocalist as opposed to a male vocalist, and then kind of just start working my way down there in terms of like what's realistic. So like right off the bat, like Lizzie Hale and Amy Lee are like not realistic for me in terms of like they're pretty enormous stars. I know Lizzie Hale, from what I've been told, is in the range of like $10,000 for an appearance. I have no connections to her, so I just kind of start eliminating that like top A-list tier essentially, and then just keep narrowing it down, and had a pretty good list in terms of people that I felt were more realistic and approachable, but also super talented, and people that I would be honored to work with. And then from there, I start looking at, I mean, first and foremost, who do I know in my professional circle that could make an introduction, as well as, are they on Instagram? Like, what can I get a email address for a manager or whatever? So, I had some direct personal connections to Heidi, to answer your question, is that I just had a direct intro there. And fortunately, she like immediately liked the demo version of what would become the finalized song that is the single now. And it just worked really well from there.
So is that how that works in rap then too? Like you pay them to be, how rappers are like, say, hey, I'm available for the guest spot, and it's always, some crazy amount. The rappers come do it.
Yeah, man, I think it can be different in literally every single scenario. A lot of times it can be just like a community type thing where it's like this is a mutually beneficial thing, and or like especially if it's a collaboration where the song is written together, and then with the intention of like if you have a label and publication and all of that behind you, the idea of collaborating on a song with the intention of putting it out for basically mass consumption and then splitting the royalties is in and of itself a form of compensation. But yeah, in other scenarios, there's like Lizzie Hale has nothing to benefit from working with a guy that she's never heard of in Austin, Texas, who makes music by himself. And so you kind of just reach different thresholds where the negotiation becomes different. And sometimes it's just like, I want to, some collaborators will just be like, I want to make music just for the sake of making art. And I like what you do, and I want to be a part of what you do. So there's really no like cookie cutter approach to how these work every time.
So with this song here, it has a deep meaning. Is this a personal song to you, or just something you just happened to write?
It is a personal song. It is about the relationship, just about basically the need to grow up really fast as a kid when you grow up with a physically abusive father, which I did. And it's about the basically having to become an adult really quick just to be able to process the adult things that were happening and navigate through that world, and the relationship that my brothers and I formed with my mom. And she really like, physically saved us from him. There wasn't like a divorce. It was just he came home one day, and we were gone after she, worked up the courage to get us away from him. And, it's just about how strong a relationship. A lot of us have trauma bonds in our life, and that's a particularly significant one to have with one parent when the trauma is the source from another parent. So half of it is about that journey and how important that relationship is to me. And then as well as combined with the inevitability of losing her someday. And, that's a universal concept that most of us go through, short of, some tragedy where you die before your parents, so you don't know who your parents are. But, I've been particularly hindered by that inevitability in my life. And I found that writing about that relationship and processing and acknowledging and labeling and dealing with the inevitability of my mother's death allowed me to be more present in the moment and enjoy the time that I have with her while I have it. And that's part of the message, is just embrace the people that you love while you have them.
It's awesome, man. It's a really good message to have.
Thanks, dude.
What was your mom's reaction when she heard the song?
She cried. She's she's a sensitive soul, and she also like my dad couldn't play a kazoo if his life depended on it. So like music is absolutely something that my mom gave to me, not only with like genetic disposition, but she was the one who was a constant encouraging force and like helped me explore different musical avenues and expose me to different types of music, different genres, different decades. And she's been, you know, a huge fan of mine since I was a kid and just has really been an encouraging force for me in a pretty discouraging life and industry. So, yeah, it was a pretty special full circle moment for her to hear that.
Now, when you're doing a song like this and you have the Butcher Babies on there and you're trying to promote everything, do you find it kind of a hindrance with all the stuff that's going on with them and OTEP right now?
I have to be honest that I don't even know what you're referring to, but I'm curious. Tell me.
OTEP just was on the Jamie Josta show,
Yeah.
and I guess she just hates them, and she just went and talked a bunch of shit. So,
Gotcha. I'll have to look that up. It is my understanding that I'm blanking on her name right now, the lead singer of OTEP, is that I've heard from people who have toured with that band that they're not the easiest band to coexist with. You know, I think that there's silver linings to that. They make a particular form of really intense metal, and that doesn't normally come from being a very happy person for the duration of your life. But I have no personal experience with them, and I really don't know the other members of Butcher Babies. All I can say is that Heidi has been nothing but an absolute fucking joy to work with, not only in the creation of the song, but like she'll just randomly text me. The song's been out for a month, but she'll just text me, be like, "Thank you so much for having me be a part of this beautiful song." And you know, we worked together in the kind of concepting of the music video, and she's been super supportive with like promoting it through her social channels and personal channels. And she's just been nothing. I mean, like business stuff aside, she's just been a very lovely human to deal with, and I love that she can balance that dichotomy of being this like absolute force of nature terror on stage and being this very sweet, eloquent, uh, fun person off stage. So I'll have to check out that episode. You know, there's who knows what that's rooted in, or if there's other members of Butcher Babies who I'm not familiar with that might be problematic as far as OTEP goes. But yeah, I have no knowledge of that, and it did not impact my ability to work with Heidi at all.
I wasn't saying the ability. I'm just saying now you're doing press. I don't want
Hmm.
to.
Yeah, I mean,
Because
even if that was the case, like even if again I don't know the specifics, but even if like Heidi was accused of doing something fucking horrible, like I said, my personal experience with her have been nothing but phenomenal, and I'm very proud of how the song turned out. So like I'm not concerned about about what an angry person is saying about her or the band at large, and haven't really had any sort of other pushback on it yet. But we'll see. Who knows? We'll see how big this gets. I know Jamie's podcast has a really good reach, and you know specifically within our category. So yeah, it'll be interesting to look into that. But it's entirely possible that's just dramatic shit talking. That doesn't mean anything. So we'll see.
so now with this project you have here, have you ever had the opportunity to do any of these tracks live? I mean, I know you're the drummer for
Yeah,
Rob.
for sure. Yeah, there have been different iterations of Fear of Water where I've had um I'm not saying that I am at Trent Reznor's level, but it is a Trent Reznor approach where it's like create all of the music by yourself and essentially record it by yourself with the help of the occasional featured performer, producer, whatever. And then when you plan to tour on it, you build a band around it that's, you know, essentially hired guns, but hired guns can become long-term collaborators. And I have had that at different iterations over the years, but I've just in the more recent years, I've just been way more focused on creating the best music possible and building my team and resources around the distribution and promotion of that. It's a very crowded marketplace out there in terms of you know, putting a band together and getting on the road. I would absolutely love to do it, but right now I'm really just focused on making Fear of Water the brand and that catalog of music as good as it can possibly be and inclusive of as many featured performers as possible. And I don't want to put the cart before the horse. And I'm kind of feeling that there might be an opportunity for keep doing this, get to a certain echelon of visibility and success, and there might be a request from like a label or management company or whatever, some other entity that believes in what I'm doing that puts time, money, and resources behind what I'm doing to, um, like I'm not in a position to just like rent a U-Haul and start playing rural bars on a Tuesday night where it's just me and the sound guy and the other people in the band. I did that in my 20s and I'm past that chapter. So basically I'm gonna just keep making the best music possible. And then when we get to a crossroads where there is serious interest from an external entity to partner up with me, then yes, this will turn into a physical entity and tour the globe, hopefully.
Now, how do you balance out this project between being a drummer with rock?
It's pretty easy, actually. Sahaj, the lead singer of Raw, is very 99% of what he do and the money he makes is from staying at home in Fort Wayne, Indiana, and working with doing songwriting, engineering, and producing either at home where he has his wife and kid there, and he also lives in the same city as the headquarters of Sweetwater, which has a really phenomenal studio where I recorded as well. And it was actually through going to Fort Wayne and working with him as a solo artist for Fear of Water that he recruited me to be the drummer of Raw. And it's really ebbed and flowed in terms of the amount of like activities. So 2022 was the 20th anniversary of the first album, which is called From One. And we did 3 different tours that year on that record. But basically ever since then, it's been very sporadic in terms of when Sahaj wants to tour. And that keeps me free to pursue a lot of different endeavors. And he has so many good things going for him right now in terms of other bands that he's working with that I don't anticipate Raw becoming any sort of like full-time thing for me basically ever.
Now, if you got to watch a movie with his sister, are you going to pick Falling Down or Total Recall?
Total Recall. Falling Down's incredible. uh that's a great question, dude. No one has asked that yet. Falling Down holds a very special place in my heart because it's just one of those movies that I'm amazed even got made. Like I can just imagine the pitch where someone came in and it's like, okay, it's Michael Douglas and he's stuck in traffic. First of all, I feel like 1,000 times more people have seen Total Recall than Falling Down. I reference Falling Down a lot when I'm just in like fuck it mode.
Right.
And I feel like that movie was way ahead of its time. And it's totally unhinged. It's super cool to see Michael Douglas do something where like he's like an anti-hero, or you don't know if he's the good guy or the bad guy, or there's people who are worse than him, but he's also being a total deranged psychopath the entire time. And it's a lot of good societal commentary. And um, both movies are great, but just as a whole, Total Recall is just a phenomenal piece of sci-fi that will live on forever.
I find it funny as I get older, I can more relate with Michael Douglas's character Falling Down. It's just like, huh, I understand why he did it.
Yeah, dude, you're done serving breakfast at 11:02. Uzi, boom.
So you mentioned that you did work with some wrestlers. How did you get into that?
So with music licensing, there's two, if you had to round it out, there's basically the passive approach and the direct approach. The direct approach is where you get hired directly by a music supervisor or by a management group or whatever, who basically says like, we're doing a TV show, we're doing an episode of Cold Case where there's a scene that would be really well served by music that sounds like the Rolling Stones, but we don't have Rolling Stones budget. So we need you to make a 45-second piece of music that has 20 seconds of a guitar solo that sounds almost exactly like Painted Black, but it's not. And we're going to pay you 1/100th what we would pay to license Rolling Stones. That shit happens all the time.
Right.
And then there's passive, which is where artists like myself and other people I've collaborated with basically just make a ton of music and put it into what's called a music library. And the music library's job is to connect artists who are submitting music to the people who are needing music to place in commercials, video games, TV shows, movies, athletic events, whatever. And you organize it as much as possible. Like sounds like, and then you insert as many bands and uses these instruments and features these words or has an instrumental version or whatever. Has female vocalist, and then music supervisors go in and say like, okay, I'm going to search this entire database and I need blah, blah, blah. So 99% of what, maybe not 90% of what I've done, including the wrestler thing, has been passive, where just put music, as big of a variety of music into these music libraries as possible. And then I find out basically on a quarterly basis, like, hey, you've had music on Cold Case and Orange County Choppers and dangerous, whatever, most dangerous catch, whatever that's called. Yeah. And then I've had it in multiple video games, 2 different wrestlers,
Who are
one
the
of the
wrestlers?
Milwaukee. What's that?
Who are the wrestlers?
Cassius Ono and I'm gonna fuck up his name. Caesar Butoni, I think is his name. This was several years ago. I'd have to look it up. But Cassius Ono, definitely, who used to be Chris Hero or turned into Chris Hero. I don't follow it too much, but it's just really awesome. Like there's a ton of crossover when you look at a band like Fozzy. There is this Venn diagram of like wrestling fans and hard rock fans, and the crossover is enormous. And the amount of people that I had find me through like them shazamming their TV while they're watching Monday Night Raw or something like that, or like since it was his entrance music in the live performances, it's also used in like the, and again I forget the name, the like 2K Raw or whatever the annual video game that they put out for WWE. And people will find, see in the YouTube comments all the time, like who's here because of this video game or this, Thursday night's SmackDown. It's great. Like it's super cool to see that those two different worlds coming together and supporting each other. So, very proud to have done that.
Has there ever been a situation where you're either watching a movie or playing a game or something like that, and you're like, "Fuck, man, that's me."
That did happen with Orange County Choppers. Where I was like, is this because it was also there was like dialogue going? So I'm like listening really close, and I was like, it's possible. I don't claim to make like the world's most original music that if I heard 2 seconds of it, it would indistinguishably be me and no one else. But yeah, there was a basic because like you literally only get you get a quarterly update, but the thing that you're being updated on is what has happened in the last 3 months. So it's entirely possible that like you said, I can be out in the world and be like, holy shit, I wrote that. I wrote that, and I'm not going to be told about it officially for 2 more months. So yeah, that did happen while watching a episode of Orange County Choppers. And there's been other times where it's happened to other people, and they'll film it like on their TV and send it to me, which is great. Like it's really really cool, and it's a great paycheck. Yeah, it's a huge win-win. I'm a big fan of that, and would love to do more of that.
You ever do something like Swing by GameStop, right? You're like, "Hey, what do you think of this song during that game? You like that?"
Yeah, yeah. That'd be sweet, man. Like, at a certain point, it really does. Going the music library route is such a. I mean, we're talking like tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of artists in there. And usually like a music supervisor will like find an artist that they like, and then they'll use as much of their music as possible because it like scratches that itch for them instead of having to start from scratch and go out and like find someone else. So it's really all about like forming those relationships with those people in those decision-making places to be able to do this as like a long-term career. And it's entirely possible that my career takes me this way. Like I am a professional musician that wants to continue to like climb that ladder of doing this professionally. It doesn't necessarily need to be like I'm headlining, fucking Sonic Temple. If I can be happy and feed my family and make art for a living, I'm a very happy man.
Well, see, that's one thing you got to consider too. I mean, these days people don't pay for music. So if you have the ability to go ahead and take your art and put that elsewhere and still
Yeah.
get paid for it and make music, I mean, win-win.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, 20 years, people would call that selling out, but I don't give a shit. Like it's
Yeah, right.
this is literally our jobs. Like this is how we support ourselves. So yes, there's going to be, I think selling out more in the truer sense is the like you abandon your artistic vision because money was thrown at you. But just if your music is used in a commercial way, but it's still quintessentially you and the music that you're known for, hell yeah, man, that will facilitate that artist to make more of the music that you like in the future. So there should be no complaint about that from anyone, as long as they're still, being true to themselves.
But people always say the sellout shit. The people who don't, I mean, come on. You're
Yeah.
sitting there working at fucking Walmart and somebody gives you an opportunity to
Yeah.
mop the floor there. I'm pretty sure
Yeah.
you're gonna be like, what do I say?
Yeah. Yeah.
So you mentioned you got a couple more songs coming out. Who are gonna can you say who the singers are? Is that like a
Yeah, so the two finalized ones are the next one that's coming out is called Shame with Clint Lowry of Seven Dust, which I'm really, really excited about because he has been if you told 16-year-old Dave that 36-year-old Dave would be making music with Clint Lowry, he would absolutely not believe you. Like for basically my entire life, my top three guys have been Dave Grohl, Trent Reznor, and Clint Lowry in terms of guys that have been really inspiring to me, multi-instrumentalist, professional musicians who have navigated a very difficult musical landscape for multiple decades, including spanning the time of rock stars across the board are like the highest paid people in the world to now the industry has been completely destroyed. No one buys CDs anymore, and then Napster and then streaming. And, you know, to see these guys also evolve over time and explore different mediums and still not only be relevant, but many of them at the top of their game, just incredibly inspiring to me. So to know that I got to make this song with him, and then that relationship led to him co-writing on 3 more songs with me after that, and those have yet to come out. He's not featured on those, but he's been a part of the writing process. It's just awesome, man. Like, it's really, really cool. It's a definitely like full circle bucket list moment for me. And then the other song, it's called Never Wrong, and that features Sahaj Tikatin of Raw. And yes, both songs, very different ends of the spectrum in the same way that like One Day is very ballady, and another current single that I have is Systemic featuring Aaron Nordstrom of Gemini Syndrome. Those 2 songs are, while they're both recognizably, like identifiably Fear of Water songs, they're emotionally, they're very on different ends of the spectrum and much different levels of intensity. Shame and Never Wrong are going to do the same thing. I like having that duality out there as I'm basically on this journey to like be discovered by friends, fans, music industry people, radio stations, whatever. You know, I want to be as stay true to myself, but also have an array of accessible music available to people out there. And so if someone's not into super heavy, screamy, aggressive, multi-polyphonic shit, there's more straightforward, mellower, ballady stuff as well.
Now, people are watching this, they want to follow up, they want to know more about you, get the music, where they go.
Yeah, man, you can find me on my main social channels are Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. I, you know, very proudly respond to every single DM, every single comment, even if you're talking shit. Like I'm there to connect with the music community. So come talk to me at Fear of Water on all of those, and then anywhere you download and stream music, Spotify, Tidal, Amazon, Pandora, Apple Music, wherever, you can find a lot of Fear of Water music, and there will be a lot more in the very near future.
All right, man, it was a pleasure speaking with you. Enjoy your music. I can't wait to hear those new tracks coming out.
Thanks, dude.
We'll start looking through video games and seeing where I can find you.
Yeah, man.
All right.
Absolutely. Well, I appreciate your time, dude.
Thanks, man. Take care.